This video will review Stage 2 of the Understanding by Design process. The focus of Stage 2 is to develop assessments that are a valid evaluation of the Stage 1 desired results. Stage 2 focuses on evidence of learning by assessment, where students must prove their mastery of deep understanding. It is important that the evidence for learning is aligned to support the Stage 1 desired results. Please get out your UbD Word template and refer to it as we go through the lesson. Remember that you can continue developing your UbD unit and you'll continue to use the same Word file as you had previously used in Stage 0 and Stage 1. It's perfectly fine for you to go back and make changes to parts of your previous information, but please be sure to use the electronic yellow highlighter to indicate any and all changes. In UbD Stage 2, you need to determine the evidence. Students need to prove to you that they've mastered the learning objectives of the course. Think about the performances and the products that the students will need to complete that will review evidence of meaning making and transfer. Also think about the additional evidence that you need to collect that determines that students have mastered the other desired results. Wiggins and McTighe developed the 6 facets of understanding to provide a helpful framework to provide appropriate assessment tasks to show deep understanding. When students have deep understanding, they have the ability to explain information. This means that students can generalize, they can make connections, they have sound theories, and they can put things into their own words. This comic shows a student that's perplexed when his teacher questions his paper because he copied everything straight from the internet. Students that copy and paste information into their assignments rarely take the time to read the text, and often they don't even know what it means. Students should not be allowed to include direct quotations, even when they put the text in quotes and cite it properly. Substantial paraphrasing is a difficult task that requires students to have deep understanding of the content before they can restate it in their own words, and this is explanation. Students that have deep understanding can also interpret information. To interpret information means that students can tell meaningful stories, they can offer translations, they can provide a revealing historical or a personal dimension. Instructors should design assessments that require students to interpret the content and make personal connections to the material. This requires students to connect to the new material to pre-existing learning. It also causes students to strengthen their neural connections from the new material to the old material to their previous learning, which will enhance the chances of students remembering the material. Students that deep understanding can apply the knowledge. This means that students can transfer, adapt, adjust. They can address novel situations and problems. Students can use and adapt what they know and learn to diverse contexts that are different from the ones where they learned the information. The goal of education is not to get good grades in the classroom, but for students to be able to transfer their learning to other environments such as the workplace. Students need to be able to transfer their learning in situations that may be quite different from where they've learned it. Students that have deep understandings have perspective. This means that students can see from different points of view. They can see and hear points of view from a critical perspective. Many times students are passive recipients of learning and simply take in what's delivered from the instructor without judging or evaluating the content. It's important to push students to develop their critical thinking skills, to be able to shift through the information they receive, and to be able to ask good questions and to evaluate the value of that information. Students that deep understandings have empathy. This means that students can walk in the shoes of people. They can find value in what others might find odd, alien, or implausible. In a recent paper, Personality and Social Psychology Review, the researchers found that college student scores have dropped 34% on perspective taking and 48% on empathetic concern. Students' ability to see from other points of view and to feel and respond to others' emotions is rapidly declining. Research shows that a person's ability to empathize can improve, so it's important for instructors to include assignments that encourage students to develop their empathy skills when demonstrating their understanding of the content. Students that have deep understandings have self-understanding. This means that students can self-assess, see the limits of their understanding, and develop effective habits of mind. Habits of mind are the 16 attributes that human beings display when they're behaving intelligently. Costa and Kalick identified 16 habits of mind in their book, Learning and Leading with Habits of Mind. They include persisting, managing impulsivity, listening with understanding and empathy, thinking flexibly, metacognition, striving for accuracy, questioning and posing problems, applying past knowledge to new situations, thinking and communicating with clarity and precision, gathering data through all senses, creating, imagining, and innovating, responding with wonderment and awe, taking responsible risks, finding humor, thinking independently, and remaining open to continuous learning. Many instructors have reported feeling overwhelmed when developing assessments because there's too much information and they have trouble narrowing down what information to assess. Wiggins and McTighe have developed an effective method to prioritize the information and make a determination what to include on assessments. They recommend separating information into categories of 1, enduring understandings, 2, important to know and do, and then 3, it's worth being familiar with. Information identified as enduring understandings should be assessed with performance tasks and projects that are open-ended, complex, and authentic. Please get out your UbD template and refer to the performance task area. You will be identified the performance tasks students will complete on your UbD template. Start by listing the desired results that you identified in Stage 1. Then list your performance tasks on the right side. Lastly, in the middle column, list the criteria that you will be using to evaluate the student performance to assess it. Information identified as important to know and do and worth being familiar with should be assessed with traditional quizzes and tests. Students do not have enough time to complete complex performance tasks for all the information and knowledge that they will be learning in class. So instructor designers need to prioritize what is most important and then use more efficient assessments for information outside of the enduring understandings. You will be using the other evidence to identify efficient assessment methods for information outside of the enduring understandings area. Start by listing your desired results that you identified in Stage 1, then list your other evidence on the right side. This could be assessments such as quizzes that are automatically graded, homework, and work pages. Lastly, in the middle column, list the criteria that you will be using to evaluate the other evidence to assess it. Please get out your UbD rubric and refer to the grading rubric section. Grading rubrics are a formalized list of criteria that are used to evaluate students' attainment of the desired results. Grading rubrics are not only used by the instructor, but they're also shared with students so that they are fully aware of the expectations for the assessments. Creating grading rubrics is time consuming, but there's many good reasons why instructors should develop rubrics. Number one, developing instructors identify criteria. Developing a detailed rubric forces instructors to identify the key criteria, which will allow them to focus on the criteria. Number two, detailed feedback. A well-designed rubric will include the important criteria for an assignment so students can receive feedback in these areas. Number three, students can self-assess. Students can use the rubric like a checklist to self-assess themselves before turning the assignment in. Number four, grading for subjective assignments. A rubric gives instructors a way to grade subjective assignments to create a certain level of objectivity. Number five, make criteria public. Developing a rubric makes the requirements for an assignment public, less ambiguous, and less debatable. Number six, students use evaluation. Students can use the rubric for self-evaluation, self-reflection, and also peer review. Number seven, makes grading more accurate and fair. Using a rubric for all your students makes grading more consistent and fair. Number eight, gives consistency for multiple instructors. When assignments are being graded by multiple instructors or adjunct instructors, a rubric makes it more consistent. And number nine, grading faster. Once a rubric is set up, it makes it quicker and easier for instructors to grade assignments. Most learning management systems have electronic rubrics, which really makes it fast. Creating rubrics can be hugely time-consuming, so they should only be used for performance tasks. You do not need rubrics for assessments that are objective, that have clearly identified right or wrong answers, such as a quiz. Rubrics are great for assessments that are objective to provide a certain level of objectivity, assessments that are subjective to provide a certain level of objectivity and consistent to be able to the grading for a subjective assignment. Using rubrics to grade subjective assignment makes the criteria public and minimizes student arguments about grading assignments. A holistic rubric grades the overall process without judging the components separately. An analytic rubric grades the specific criteria identified to indicate individual strengths and weaknesses. You should be creating an analytic rubric for your key performance task assessment that you have identified. You will be identifying the criteria, the levels, the behaviors to describe each level, and the points for each criteria.